So today saw the launch of the first audit of the government's flagship welfare to work programme called the Work Programme. It's a multi-billion pound scheme, and it was designed to get those people, the hardest to reach people, those people who've been out of work for longer than a year, back into sustainable employment. That means getting them into a job for longer than 6 months and making sure they stay there. The project was designed so that the private sector principally could deliver it. They bid for contracts, they won them, and they were supposed to work in various regions around the country. The government set targets that they were supposed to hit, and the first year target was incredibly low, or at least that's what we thought. It was less than 1 in 20 of those that you had to get back into work. In actual fact, what we found was about 1 in 30 is all the private providers managed in the first year. The Guardian looked at putting the data together in a usable form. John, you've done the graphic here, and it shows just how poor the performance is. Instead of the 5.5% target, what providers have managed to get is a much lower 4.5% there in the Thames Valley, Hampshire region. And then going down here to the northeast, we see only 2% of people who are long-term unemployed getting back into work. Now, Ed Miliband has used this to beat the government with. He says, in actual fact, if you looked at the actual measures that the government used when drawing up the contracts, in fact, only 2 out of every 100 long-term unemployed people actually got jobs via the work programme. And that actually it did a lot worse than Labour's scheme. The government's employment minister, Mark Hoban, fresh to the job, endured a torrid time in a press conference this morning. But he gave 3 reasons why these data might not be working. The first was the recession. The second was the fact that the contracts may have been drawn too tightly. And third, maybe there isn't enough money for the private industry to deliver real change for unemployed people. But we've got to ask ourselves, what is there in the future for these people? One of the real problems with the work programme is because it's a payment by result scheme, i.e. the better you do, the more money you get, and the fact that work providers are failing implies that there's actually less money going to those people who need it at the greatest time in recession. The government says things will improve, as does the industry, who claim that they're now getting about 20% of people into long-term work. Of course, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It may be a very uncomfortable and untasty dish for ministers.